ABSL Summit. Beyond Tomorrow. Building a Sustainable Future.
So now, employers in the sector increase their focus on implementing diverse and agile, flexible benefit programs that fit individual preferences and also benefit the entire community. Well-being becomes a strategy, not a benefit anymore, and it allows the business environment to compete in the new normal. Extension of diversity and inclusion culture helps accommodate the significant role of belonging, especially among the new joiners in the pandemic era.
According to ABSL strategic foresight, in 10 years the industry talent pool will be dominated by Gen Z graduates. Employees will be working from different locations, anywhere possibly in a hybrid mode of combined work from home environment and workspaces. They will be better paid and mobile as the industry will focus on better skilled and multi-skilled workers. Moreover, there will be put huge emphasis on work-life balance and ESG issues. Their expectations on engagement, mobility, and flexibility will require organizations to redefine their relationship with their employees.
Isn't it a new dilemma? Let us unlock the topic in the upcoming discussion panel, Mental Well-being of People, a critical business input towards rebuilding a more human-centric workplace. Let's welcome our esteemed panelists on the scene.
Alma Jenkins, Partner and Career Global Delivery Leader at Mercer, Warsaw. Monika Pietrzyk, Vice President Leadership Talent Development Recruitment at Schaeffler, Academy at Schaeffler Region Europe.
And Edith Vivatoska, the Board President at Bydgoszcz Regional Development Agency and the Moderator, Founder and CEO at Longevity Center, Joanna Bensz.
And of course my mistake, Anna Trochim, the Head of HR Poland and Cushman Wakefield. Welcome.
Dzień dobry, witam serdecznie. Mam nadzieję, wszyscy się uśmiechają. Sorry, I will maybe start in English. I hope that everybody is smiling after Mario's presentation and introduction to this panel. Thank you very much for including this important topic on the agenda of today's fantastic conference, and congratulations to the organizers to invite us to this beautiful cities. But also for us to be able finally to meet in person. And I'm very happy and honored to panel today's discussion. My name is Joanna Bensz. I was kindly introduced. I am heading the Longevity Center, the first longevity center in this part of Europe. We are focusing on sustainable health. And so I think I would be, this is why this topic is especially of importance to us. Maybe we know who the members of this panel are, but I would like them to introduce themselves a bit more personal. So Alma, starting with you, could you tell us a bit more about yourself, who you are, what is your role at the organization, but also how COVID has changed your life?
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Alma Jenkins. I'm a partner with Mercer, a member of the board of Mercer in Poland, and I'm the chief operating officer for one of the 3 lines of business that Mercer has, which is the career line of business. I'm not Polish, as you can see, but I have been living in Poland for 20 years and I speak Polish fluently. I'm very proud of that, so I need to say that. How has COVID changed my life? A lot. It has changed every aspect of my life. And actually, as I was listening to Dr. Martinez talk about accepting compliments, for example, actually I have spent a lot of time working on self-development. And one of the things that I'm still learning is actually accepting compliments. So when someone tells me that I have nice hair or that I have a pretty dress, in the past I probably used to damage that with a negative comment. So now I try to turn that compliment into something positive. As everyone else, working from home. So I think actually when I used to work in the office, I was all over the place, multitasking all the time. Now that I'm working from home, I actually try to focus on what I do and be present at the moment or at the meeting, or if I'm cooking or if I'm talking to my daughter, I'm present at that moment and I leave aside anything else that is on my mind. I adopted a dog about a year and a half ago. I think I'm not alone on that because I know a lot of people have done that as well. And I'm a parent, and so I have a teenage daughter. She's 15, so those of you who have children at that age, you know what that means. So also being together at home all the time, she having virtual lessons and me having to work, that has been challenging, but actually we have learned to cope with the challenges of being at home all the time with the dog, who is adopted and it's quite small. But yeah, it has been very interesting, and I'm pretty pleased that I have spent actually lots of time also investing on my well-being. So I have spent lots of time learning how to meditate, practicing meditations, doing yoga, exercising at home since fitness clubs were closed. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much, and I think this is quite interesting because I'm participating in many leadership roundtables, and a lot of those roundtables, before they were presenting, how important they are, and everybody was introducing themselves, and most of them now are starting with how many dogs you have and what actually changed in your private life. So I think it's quite interesting change. Anya, what about you? How did COVID and whether at all your life, both privately and your business life, has changed?
So first of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. And it's really interesting that we are talking about mental well-being, and only women are sitting here in that panel. So,
but we had an introduction by Maria, so I think it's equal.
Yes, that's true. So in terms of the COVID and the change that it brought to my life, actually I cannot see many changes in my personal life, but for sure I can observe how far my business life, my professional life has changed. So for sure it stretched absolutely my focus on the others. So Alma, you mentioned about this being present. So we don't meet people on a regular basis as before. So we need to be much more conscious, much more mindful where they are, what they feel, what kind of challenges they have, even if we don't see them on a daily basis. And the other thing is really to develop ability to make fast and courageous decisions, because in this extremely fast changing world, we need to be ready to make those decisions, to advise our leaders, to advise our teams in which direction they should go. I know that there were some research saying that our employees, they trust us as employers even much more than, for example, our government. So this is really a huge responsibility to be mindful of what we are saying, what we are doing, in order to make sure that we keep the integrity and we present the direction that is in line with everything what has been said before in the first part of this event.
Very interesting. Thank you. Monika, what about you?
So hello everyone, thank you for having me here today. So my name is Monika Pietrzyk, I'm Polish, but working in Germany, so some of you might be wondering. I have been in the corporate world for entire professional life. However, I spent this time, more than a decade actually, in living and working in a different regions. So I spent some time in Asia, in Americas, and also here in region Europe. So how the COVID impacted me was definitely I felt fully grounded. So my daily life of being on the way, always in the move, fully engaged, changed into a 60 square meter apartment in a little town of Bamberg. Whoever knows this town, is very beautiful. However, totally changed my perspective. And of course, the perspective of many of my colleagues, my coworkers, and my peers as well. And I very much like what you, Mario, said in your presentation about smiling and the Zoom part of it. And I'm very thankful for IT colleagues who enabled us for having a technology on that level because at the beginning, in March 2020, we were not so successful with connections. However, right now we are very much equipped, and I think that we will have a lot of smiles moving forward.
Thank you. Edyta?
Hello, everyone. I'm Edith Vivatoska. I'm CEO of Bydgoszcz Regional Development Agency, the agency established by the municipality of Bydgoszcz to promote economic assets of the city, to serve the new investment projects in the city, but also to cooperate with those entrepreneurs who have already established their subsidiaries, who have run business in the city. I think we match business with administration and people with business, inhabitants with business. What COVID cost to my life? Well, in my private one, I think that I need to be closer to the members of my families. In my business life, I feel more responsible for the people I work with.
Thank you so much. And I think it's so important because I think we realize, and we have also seen it in previous presentations in the first panel, how important this interconnectivity is, and also discussion how important is it to develop talent and to keep the talent motivated. We think that I think this has changed a lot over the 1.5 years. And coming back to our topic, the mental well-being. I have spent also quite many years in corporate world, and now I'm running my own startup, let's say company. But I see that the mental well-being, mental health, mental anything, I think it was not really top of the agenda. Or at least it was maybe seen more as a taboo discussion. Well-being was always there, and health days and so on. But how do you see this really change in your own organization? Do you see that there is more interest in discussing how we can help our employees, and also what is the role of the employer now in this topic?
So in the case of Mercer, I would say that well-being has always been on the top of our agenda. Nevertheless, what COVID has changed is probably the depth with which we talk about the subject. So probably in the past we were mostly focused on mental well-being and physical well-being, while now actually we're now going broader. We're talking as well about social well-being, we're talking about financial well-being. So that for sure has changed. Another thing that I observed that has changed in the firm is actually the engagement of our executive leadership in the topic. Because in the past it was mostly our HR department, our learning and development department, the one pushing the topic in the agenda, whereas now internally we see our leaders globally and locally very interesting, hosting meetings, doing webinars themselves with all of our employees all over the world. And perhaps lastly, I would say that as well, actually, our benefits packages to our employees have been subject of change, right? We are in the people business, and of course, we were always quite ahead of what the market was doing, but I see that has changed as well. And lately, we're also spending a lot of time training people managers on how to address their teams and the persons that they work with, and actually support them through the process of having to work from home, and now very hot topic, return to office. So we're actually as well spending a lot of time training on people managers so that they know how they should support their team members in an environment where now they are expected to go back to the office, and some of them don't want to.
Anya, I will ask you the same question. Do you see, like, you have always been in the people's business because you're on the HR side.
Yes.
But do you see a more interest in terms of your own company, but also in terms of other clients that you're working with at a higher level in terms of interest on mental health?
So I think that in terms of the level of interest, this is still the same, and this is high. I think that again, the focus, the topic that we focus on is a bit different. So before, it was really a kind of single actions, programs, events, webinars. So really the single points focused a lot on physical health. And during pandemic, we have started the discussion how the well-being should look like during and after the pandemic as well, in terms of our programs. And the direction for us right now is to really discuss how our culture should change in order to provide the well-being on a daily basis. So this should not be, a single actions, webinars, workshop, meeting with the experts. It should be really everything what we do on a daily basis with our employees. What is our style of leadership? What are our core values that are really put into practice, not just the buzzwords that we have on our walls. So this is the direction, because every day we deliver a kind of employee experience through HR actions, through leadership actions, and between the people, between the employees. So the question is, what kind of culture do we build, and how far this will support people's well-being in a holistic approach? We don't want to divide anymore physical health and mental health. We have one health, we have one life. So this is really important to discuss how our culture, how our leadership, how our values really support people well-being. And I think that that's the direction for us that we need to take, thinking long-term. And this was again mentioned in the first panel, that we need to shift our mindset and start thinking long-term, not only short-term.
Yeah, the sustainable way.
Yes, exactly.
Monika, I would like to also use the occasion that you're working internationally and you are responsible for talent development. Can you tell us other differences in different countries and cultures with regards to the prioritizing of this topic?
True. Culture has always played a role, a very significant one. And I think that we all can also relate to that. What I like to talk about in regards to the culture is that despite all the differences and despite all the uniqueness that characterizes us, and Mario and other colleagues mentioned already that environment plays a very important role, what I would like to stress is that the fact that we are all human beings and our united need is a basic need of being healthy and happy. And I think that we all have experienced it by ourselves during the pandemic. And we all know what we had to do to change, to make a step further in order to survive actually these critical times. And so from the personal perspective, we are moving into the looking at the topic from the corporate perspective. And I must say that well-being, as my colleagues here mentioned, has always been on our agenda. It's part of our sustainability strategy, of course, and part of human resource pillar. However, we also looked much deeper now into the topic, and we are not only talking about safety and environment, because of course having manufacturing factories across Europe, that's the first and foremost importance for us, that our employees are safe and healthy over there. But we are now talking also about mental health. And again, I have to refer to you, Mario, and to your presentation, very inspiring, by the way. I think that I fully agree that stress is one of the aspects that can fully kill any creativity that employees bring with. And I think the role of a manager is to discover the potential in the talents that they are surrounded with and to empower individuals to be present in the office, not only by body, physically, but also with their mind. And I think that, I would say, is a bigger challenge than looking into cultural aspects.
Now, this is very interesting, and I think this is even more showing to us how interconnected we are and how similar we are. And actually, as Mario was saying, I really liked it. The biggest organization is the immune system, and I think we have never thought about the immune system, what influences our immune system as much as now. Edyta, it's very important for us also, I mean, especially now after COVID, we see a lot of people spending more time outside, or even looking for new apartments outside of the big cities. Or some of my friends are even working from abroad because they can do a lot of what they do remotely. What do you think would be the role of local authorities and also business organizations like yours in helping employers, but also employees and citizens in this mental well-being?
Well, the mental well-being and well-being topic is also connected to the city. Why? Because every human being, every citizen wants to live a long life in good health, feel comfortable, safe, and to be able to fulfill themselves in every aspect of their life. And they expect that the city they live in will allow them to achieve these goals. So even when we look at the strategies of cities development, we can find that almost every city wants to be the place good to live for their inhabitants, residents. What is also important, those strategies were created not only by the administration, but also residents and their organizations which have been involved in this process. For decades, cities have realized this mission, this vision of the city by developing the central forming functions in administration, economy, education, sport, culture. For recent years, they have put much attention to eco-investment, natural environment, or the idea of smart city, because everyone knows that this offer of the city has to be prepared to the people's needs, to their style of life, to their habits, and also their aspirations. I think that the city of Bydgoszcz has a good offer, some assets to its residents. It's a small, medium city with all the functions characteristic for large ones. It is green city with lots of parks located in the Bydgoszcz forest on the banks of Vistula and Brda River with good infrastructure. Diversified economy, but the question is that enough at that time? You know very well that COVID caused many challenges which the cities face and had to deal with. And even when we look at the changes at your sector and we look how they affect the changes into the sectors related to yours, we see big challenges. For one hand, home office, which is very important for your employees, of course brought the employees the sense of security and gave the opportunity to provide services in uninterrupted way by the companies. But on the other hand, we had the question, if the employee doesn't have to work in the office, will it have to live in this concrete city? If the employees don't have to live in this city, they will not, buy or rent a flat. They will not do shopping in the local market. They will not go to the local restaurant. So it's a big challenge for the cities, not only for the administration, but also for other residents who run business in the city, to prepare an adequate offer to people's needs and to look how their needs are. First of all, I've got to say that we observe also changing of habits of our inhabitants. Some of them are willing to take part in big mass events, but some say, no, it's not the right moment. We prefer the local, smaller ones. In general, I think the society seems to expect more care in terms of healthcare, natural environment, and relocations, some central functions from the city center to the districts of the city they live, to their neighborhood. And I think that if the cities want to keep pace with the people's needs, they have to listen to their opinions carefully and react much faster than ever before.
Thank you so much. There was a lot of discussion also in the first panel about how our life has changed in terms of work-life balance when we are practically when our employers are part of our life, whether we want or not, and have been for the last 1.5 years, especially when we were working mainly from home. So I would like to ask Alma first about the benefits systems that are like, your company has always been in the forefront of where benefit systems should be going, but what changes do you see now in terms of benefits that the company are interested in to give more, to engage the employees as well, to help them to better manage the work-life balance or work-life integration formula and the way of life?
So I would say that perhaps what is changing the most is what we call telehealth. And I think everyone probably knows what I'm talking about. I guess we were all used to in the past of having to go in person to a doctor, and it was unthinkable to have an appointment with the doctor through the phone or through video conference. So actually internally at the company, but also with our clients, we see that medical packages, for example, which is a very traditional benefit offered to employees, are actually evolving to have e-need included, more things in relation to the ability to have teleconference calls with doctors. We also observe practices where more and more companies are offering, for example, meditation courses, yoga lessons. Actually, at Mercer a couple of months ago, we had a very interesting session about how to relax through painting. And actually the company that we hired to do this for us, actually I was personally very curious to understand how many companies actually make use of that type of course. And interestingly, it looks like a lot. And so also actually lately, and I think that that's very much connected with what Mario was saying earlier, we also see that companies are starting to think ahead when it comes to the health of their employees. So for example, we're seeing more and more packages where you can do a medical examination and you, for instance, get a report that talks in general about your health state. And so then you get a whole bunch of specialists, like a well-being coach, for example, that talks to you about how your diet should look like or how you should exercise, how often you should exercise, what type of exercises you should be doing, talking about sleep as well, which is something that companies, I mean, when I started my career, I couldn't imagine my boss talking to me about my sleeping hours or that I should be even sleeping. And so that type of conversation and packages that actually direct employees to, and encourage employees to start thinking about these aspects of their life that honestly seem quite obvious, but we're not necessarily part of the conversation with our employers.
No, this is very interesting, and I think before COVID, we keep actually repeating the sentence, but before COVID, I think it was very rarely that CEOs would say that they meditate or they do something personal, like painting, for example, when now this is actually becoming more and more fashionable. Most of the CEOs are wearing some kind of wearable devices and which are measuring sleep, stress, or exercise, and I think it became just our part of life. Anya, what I would like to ask you is because we are talking more and more about coming back to the offices, whether whether in a hybrid way or all the employees, but for a lot of companies this is a very challenging and new topic. How to make it safe, how to make it also, how to design an office and how to create a work environment that is going to help us to better connect, but also to enhance the mental well-being among employees. Just before COVID, again, I think we were talking about being afraid of the fact that robotics is going to take over our jobs and also AI going to replace people. And I think we stopped most of these discussions because I think, or at least they are not top of the agenda. And the top of the agenda is at the moment talent and how to make employees being really happy at what they do and feeling also purpose in what they do. So Anya, how do you see an office of the future now?
Yeah, so I think that there is no one single factor that will influence future modern workplace. Again, I would suggest to back to the basics. So the future office should be related to the future culture and the future leadership. So this is what I mentioned before, that we have a real values like respect, like everyone feels respected, everyone feels listened. This is, Monika, Edyta, sorry, what you have said about listening the others. And this is as well important in our companies to really ask and listen what people need in order to find our why. So if we want to create, design new office, including the culture, the leadership, the values, we need to define together with our employees the why in order to ensure that they will have this sense of meaning, so important and mentioned a few times today, sense of belonging, and as well still the safety. This will be important. So I think that this connection, collaboration, implement the space from one side. So we are talking about the office as a physical space, but on the other hand, this is a kind of a mental space where we meet, where we collaborate, where we exchange not only the knowledge, but as well the energy. And this is what we observe because we have launched the project Return to Office already. And this is what we, first of all, observe, but this is as well what we hear. And we do regular pulse checks on a quarterly basis where we ask our people how they feel in terms of the safety, in terms of collaboration, trust, and so on. And we get the feedback, and so far this is really positive about Return to Office. So I think that this is all related. So strong fundamentals, find as a company, our why we want to come back to the office, in order to design the best solutions.
Super, and I think this is going to be also still a topic for new trends in your sector. Monika, I wanted to ask you, because you are talent development, so I think it's a very the right person for this question. Do you think a big change now in terms of talent development after COVID, where we actually need new skills, and what kinds of skills do we need? And also your organization, you are responsible for both the blue collars and also the factory employees. How do you see the shift now in terms of what skills are more important now than ever in terms of talent?
I would say flexibility and agility. And this could really take over most of the expected skills that we look at, but we need to look holistically on this topic. And we not only look at creating an environment for employees to tap on their potential, but I think we have to start with leadership. And here, absolutely, during the COVID, we all have been confronted with old stereotype of management that has not been working and will never be successful anymore. So the leadership that is inclusive, that is empowering people, that is humble, will be or is something that we are already looking at. So on one way, we are creating opportunities to upskill and reskill current leadership group. And of course, we are tapping into the new potential, and we are searching for new talents, as you mentioned, who are already coming with this intrinsic motivation and with concrete behaviors that are expected. And as I said here, someone who is absolutely going to create an environment of inclusion, trust, and allow employees to come to office with the full body, as I always say, with their all potential and with all passions that they have. So this I think is very important on the leadership side. On the employee side, and here I think that a lot of expectations, as Anya mentioned, also are in relation to how will we work, how will be the environment. And I think also for us as employers, there is a competition, of course, to create and enable and offer such an environment. Because, and here I would also say that there is a lot of opportunities coming to your strategies and questions that you have, because what we are also shifting is in terms of recruitment, we are not talking anymore about the geographical boundaries, but we are rather recruiting based on skill and competencies of individuals. So for us, very important is actually to find talents across the CEE region moving forward, where people can maintain their relationships and social engagements that they might have in their local societies, but work in a regional or global teams, having much different challenges coming up with this. And I think that this will be an opportunity for both, for us as companies, as employers, but also for your sector, right? And we will need you in the government side also to enable us to support employees like this caliber who would like to stay in the, as you said, small cities, but who would like to work on a bigger agenda. So my answer to your question is quite broad and holistic. And I think this is also what COVID taught us, to think across the silos.
Thank you so much. We were talking about benefits, we were talking about creating inclusive environment, but at the end of the day for the company it's very important to perform well and to be effective, and also to have the right employees with the right mindset to achieve our goals as companies. Before COVID, we were talking a lot about absenteeism. Now, one of the important words is actually presenteeism. So how to deal with that in a company, how to measure it, and how to help to the employee, how to actually help employees to be more effective and engaged. Anya, I will start with you.
So I can share the funny thing that I have found yesterday. So just a short dialogue when someone was calling the other colleague, what are you doing right now? Actually nothing, I'm just working, or I'm at work, right? So this is really funny because this is about what you have mentioned, that we are showing that we are here in the office because return to office project. But the question is how to measure if we are working or we are just there for a different purpose. So I think this is pretty challenging for us as a company to measure that and to find the right KPIs. And I think that the proper strategy would be really to decide on the long-term goals, not only here and now, short-term financial, because we are talking from the very beginning about big things, big ideas, which are absolutely important. But at the end of the day, we set up the goals for our managers to achieve the profitability. So we need to combine those two things and to think from the long-term perspective and somehow align that with our current needs in order to achieve those business goals, because we are working in this sector.
Alma, you are in the business of actually making employees happy, so how can we measure effectiveness of that?
That's a very tough question, to be honest. I mean,
you do it in your own department.
Sure. So, I mean, at Mercer and as other companies as well, right? We do constant poll surveys to measure the happiness of our employees, if you like, as well as their levels of engagement. And actually, we try to divide the survey in very concrete categories, not asking too many questions, but trying to go like straight to the point. And for example, one of the questions that we ask is how do they feel about their work-life balance, and if they feel that the amount of work that we are giving them as a company, it's fair, and not only fair, but do they think that we're compensating them appropriately for the amount of work that we're asking them to do. And as you can imagine, we get various responses to that, ranging from you're asking me to do too much and I don't have proper work-life balance, going to I do have proper work-life balance. So for sure, the levels of employee engagement is something that we look at. And if I were to point out perhaps harder KPIs, for sure we look at our levels of utilization, right? So if we find that during constant periods of time, the levels of utilization of our staff are very high, then that creates an alarm, right? And we need to do something about it. Most likely the team is understaffed. So actually it's a combination of KPIs. It's very difficult to point one. We look at revenue as well, right? How productive we are. We look at our costs. If revenue is increasing and how the proportion of our costs fit to revenue. And we also look at more HR-related KPIs, like the levels of absenteeism, for example, because again, if we find that people are not showing up at work, or that all of a sudden we're getting unusual levels of sick leaves, for example, again, alarm, right? Something must be happening with our workforce in that case.
I think this is a very big topic, and it also existed before the pandemic, but now even more when we are working from home, I think it's much more difficult to measure. Anya, can you give us some examples of what your company does in particular in terms of the mental well-being for your own employees?
Yes, so as I said before, there are some actions that we started before COVID, which were focused on physical health, and we continued to do that during pandemic, naturally in a different mode. So it was online, available for everyone. So we had some exercises. We have implemented for the first time, Alma, you mentioned mindfulness. It was for the first time in our company, we decided to start with that, showing the context. So again, this is not about one webinar, one mindfulness session. This is about showing the context why we are doing that and what this can bring to your life. And we have started last year the project called Benefits in Your Hands. This is how we call that, and we invite our employees, the focus group from every department, to discuss how far our current offer is in line with their expectations. But for sure, there is something new in our offer, which is related with mental well-being, and this is psychological support. And this is external, this is anonymous, and this will stay in our offer, I guess, forever, because we see the need. So this is the result of pandemic, and we have implemented that quite fast, not only for our employees who need to tackle different situations. They have teenagers at home, small kids at home, they need to work. They have a husband, partner, wife at home working as well. So we offered as well the support to the closest relatives. So the kids of our employees, partners, they can use the psychological support as well. And we observe as well that the expectations from our employees related with well-being offer, this is really dynamic. So we stopped some actions right now because we got the feedback in the last pulse check that this is too much. We have done regular webinars, meetings, exercises every Monday morning. And the feedback was, okay, now we came back to the office, we need something else. You need to stop that. So this is our why we are doing the pulse check. We are doing that in order to make the proper decisions, not just to show that we are doing that. So we stopped the actions, and right now this is what I said at the beginning, that we are driving our discussions more towards our culture, expectations. We have implemented smart working rules, very simple one and maybe obvious for different people, like free meetings Fridays. So this is just the example, and we have the set of the rules in 3 sections to change the way we work, not only, single events.
And Alma, when we were having this preparation earlier to this, our preparation to this panel, you mentioned about Purple project.
Go Purple.
Go Purple project. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Go Purple is an initiative that we launched at Mercer as a result of the pandemic, of course. And I guess most of you probably use Outlook as a system to manage your emails. So you know that when we're out of office, you color your day on purple. And so taking advantage of that, actually, we decided to call the initiative Go Purple, and it's actually very much connected to what you said. It's not necessarily about having Fridays off Zoom, but it's actually about allowing employees the flexibility to color their calendar on purple whenever they want to focus on doing a task without necessarily having a meeting, or when they want to have a break to go for a walk, or pick up their children from school. And actually, interestingly, just yesterday I was talking to a colleague from work about that, and I was actually telling her, if I don't have a team member saying to me that during the day they are going to take a short break to do something, whatever it is, I'm okay. But if they are not telling me that they need that break, then I'm worried, because it means that they are working all the time. And that's not the point, right? That's why we're here to talk about well-being. So it is important that actually employers demonstrate that flexibility, so that people can get the work done, but get it done in the hours and in the moments that it fits them best.
And also, some of us were and are responding still to emails even in the middle of the night because something beeps, and not to mention the quality of sleep. I think it's a very important aspect that also the employer need to take care of. Monika, what are the different interesting projects that you introduced in different countries? Maybe they will be different as well in different cultures.
True. I just wanted to add when Anna was speaking, because actually you mentioned that some of those projects that we introduced were quite simple, but I think that I can also relate to that our hints and tips during the COVID were quite simple, and I think actually they were targeting a right thing, because we were just in a different environment. So how to make a coffee talk when you are at your home, for example. So we also implemented those, let's say, simple hints and tips. We, shortly after the pandemic started, we created a program called Leading in Crisis, and we engaged our top leadership to share from their perspective how they are dealing with these daily challenges and how they are implementing different way, or the new normal, being in the home office. And we also introduced hints and tips in relation to make a good morning call with your team, to get inspired and to say good morning to people. Normally you would say it at the entrance of the office, right? Then have a virtual coffee talks, right? We always love certain coffee corners in our offices where we could exchange on topics. And we engaged our people now virtually on coffee talks. Very famous lunch and dialogues that we have used to run every month with the top leaders of the company with talents has stopped for 1 month only. And then I came with a proposal, let's do in dialogues virtually. And our leadership was very keen on and interested, quite tempted to use the camera at the beginning. But afterwards, right now, they are all using, and actually they came back to me and they said, Monika, we should implement it also locally in the plants. Besides of this, a very successful program of our flagship Women Mentoring, which I'm very proud of also. We have more than 40 women across our organization from Europe who are being mentored by our senior leadership. And also what have been reported during this pandemic time was that it was an excellent opportunity for them to be connected with leaders who have more experience, with someone who comes from a different organizational level, because usually there's at least 2 or 3 organizational levels between mentors and mentees in our program, but who comes also from a different culture, and we talk about the cultural importance here a lot. So I think that both mentors and mentees have experienced a great support throughout being in this program during the pandemic. We have not planned the pandemic, but we planned the program. And I think that was an ultimate benefit for all of them. And you asked me also what are the other programs and ideas that have been implemented across, and perhaps I don't even know about all of them, because I have to tell you that I was very positively surprised about ideas, creativity of all our teams across region Europe. that have came with great activities that were tapping into the needs locally and very much customizing their cultural aspects and the way how it is done locally. One of the examples which I very much was interested and inspired was by our shared service center here in Wrocław, when I saw a passion day. So as I mentioned, that behind every job title, there is a person with passion, hobbies, and ambitions. And the colleagues in Wrocław, they found out those individuals, those talents with passion, maybe somebody who was a yoga instructor or somebody who used to do after work cooking classes, and they organized them in a schedule of activities that were available for employees for the office. Anybody could just book themselves online for those classes and participate together. I mean, excellent way of building the culture of connectedness, belonging absolutely, and letting people have an agenda besides the business topics, but also privately. And not only, like we also discussed a bit before the panel, to know the names of our pets right now, but to also know ourselves on a different level.
Very interesting, and also to share about ourselves, because we were not used to sharing so much about our private life. Everyone can see now a great summary of our discussion, and hopefully we'll have the time, also you have the time to study. Thank you for that. One of the aspects that Mario mentioned, which is very, very important as well, that I think most of the employees were not really focusing on. You mentioned passion, but like Mario and also a number of our experts are studying centenarians, so people that have lived over 100 years and more. What are they doing right to live? And some of them have been very effective. I mean, and in business. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to you're going to have to sit on the beach for on your retirement until the end of your days. But actually, one of the most important topics was actually passion, and also focus on aspects that are important to you. Focus on the family, much more than anything else to do with the right diet or exercise. So I think the mental health and the emotional wellness is as important, if not the most important, for both our health, well-being, and longevity. And there is a number of places in the world, they are usually areas, but sometimes just cities, that are considered so-called blue zones, where there's more centenarians than anywhere else. So it shows also that there's a very important role of either a city or a local environment to help us to live longer. So what do you do in Bydgoszcz? Can you give us some examples of what you did before the pandemic and now to make your citizens and also employees happier and also enhance their well-being?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention that the city, in my opinion, the city should be the place where the inhabitants can realize the idea of work-life balance. They should have opportunity to get a good job, but also to realize their passions, their hobbies, their interests. And the role of the local authority is to prepare adequate infrastructure to provide or to provide the adequate services for the inhabitants and encourage people to use them to take part in some activities that are organized in the city. Bydgoszcz turned its attention to sport. I would like to mention about only one initiative. The Bydgoszcz city is the initiator of the project called Active Cities. It is the multifunctional, free mobile application dedicated to people who like sport. It offers a dozen of disciplines, measure times, burn calories, traveled kilometers, marks the travel routes on the maps. Each kilometer is converted into coins. The coins can be exchanged for some benefits from our partners of the program. But what is also interesting, this application is used to organize the competition for the cities for the title of the capital of Poland in cycling. And this year, 53 cities took part in this competition. Their residents cycled, rode bicycles for 1 month in June, and their kilometers were turned into points just to let also smaller cities to have opportunity to win. Bydgoszcz was on the 10th place, and congratulations to Nowa Sól. But what is also very important, that this applications also allows to organize some competition for the companies. The companies can use it to organize competition, to encourage the employees to compete with each other, but also to feel the members of one team and to create the society in the company. So I think this is the most important project.
I think it's very interesting because coming back to what Ania said, at one stage you can actually overdo it with yoga in the organization. So the last maybe round of question would be, what do you do personally to your own mental well-being? I meditate and I have 2 dogs, so I have to go on 2 long walks a day with them. So this is very much my meditation.
I also meditate. I actually start my day meditating every day, and I try to do around 20 minutes of exercise every day before I start working, and that's my daily routine.
Perfect.
So personally, I do sports a lot. I play tennis, and this is the best way to manage my well-being, as well as I have 8-year-old daughter, and I love to spend time with her because this is really chilling time, even though this can be challenging. So spending time with my husband and my daughter, plus doing regularly some sport.
Perfect. Monika?
Right, so also similar to my colleagues, first time ever during the pandemic, I tried to meditate and learn how to do it. Also doing yoga as much as possible and being outside because this was possible in most of the times during the corona. But what I also do is where I gain the most energy from, and people who know me know that very well, that I like to be very much connected with my colleagues and friends who I have across the globe. And it was also very interesting to connect with them, because I saw that it was not only important for me to hear how they are doing, but also how they are coping with the pandemic in their circumstances. And my colleagues are, of course, spread around the world. So, yeah, staying connected was very important, and using camera and smiling, Mario. So, absolutely.
Thank you, Edyta.
Well, I prefer swimming and reading the books, and I try to smile more than ever.
So Mario, you had a very strong influence on this panel, I believe. So thank you very much, all my panelists, colleagues, and thank you very much for watching us. And we are right on time. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Resilience, maturity, talents, growth, innovation. The change made us stronger. This all made us sustainable. ABSL Summit. Beyond tomorrow. Building a sustainable future.